Honestly, Thomas Jefferson kind of screwed us all over when he said that we all have the right to pursue happiness, the right to chase success and a beautiful family and everything we've ever wanted, and that when we achieve all that we've ever wanted, we will be happy. I am definitely personally guilty of thinking that happiness will come from getting good grades, getting into a great university, getting a great job, earning way more money than 10-year-old Liam could ever have dreamt of, having an amazing girlfriend and loving family. But these goalposts constantly change, and achievements don't make us happy. I can say from personal experience that achieving your goals does, yes, give you a sense of fulfillment for a moment. I think these moments can help create an overall happier life, but I think there's something more than that to happiness. So, having read tens of books on the topic of how to be happy, I'm going to share in this video the 4 habits that prevent us from being happy in our day-to-day lives, and how we can break each one of those habits down, and then from the rubble of these bad habits, build up a philosophy for a happy life. Now, this is one heck of a complicated topic, so I'm going to be sharing the practical techniques that I've found helpful in the hope that you find some of them helpful too, but this absolutely is not like you should apply every single one of these techniques to the letter. Find what works for you, what really resonates, and use that. This video is sponsored by Notion, but more on them later. So, unhappy habit number 1 is focusing on outcomes, not actions. When you boil your life down to its bare bones, it's really just a series of actions that we take every single day in response to the circumstances we find ourselves in. But instead of focusing on our actions as the measure of whether we've met our expectations for ourselves, we tend to focus on the outcomes of those actions. How well we rank in our class in a test, how much money we make relative to other people, or how many views this video gets. Now, that isn't exactly surprising, given that's how most of the systems of society are set up to judge us and how we therefore judge ourselves. But fixating on these external outcomes where our actions are only one of a number of inputs that lead to the outcome is fundamentally unhealthy and leads to unhappiness. Focusing on your actions and what you can do, i.e. the work you've done, fundamentally makes us perform better than it does if we focus on the outcomes that we're looking for. And there are tons of studies, for example, into the performance of athletes that show that the more we fixate on an outcome, for example, winning a gold medal at the end of the race or getting attention from that hot guy across the bar, the less likely we become to achieve those outcomes. So say, for example, that I focus on the outcome of getting recognition from my boss at work. My prefrontal cortex, because it's geared for survival, accepts, yes, Liam, you have something within your control, you can work hard. But there are a whole ton of factors that you can't control that I'm gonna think about and use to make a prediction about whether you're gonna get the recognition you're after. It thinks, yeah, but you're feeling a bit ill at the moment, so you could get ill next week and not be able to do all of the work you planned. Or you could get given loads more work from another partner and not be able to do all of the work. Or you could make a really silly mistake at the last minute that completely undoes all of the good work you've been doing. And suddenly your focus on the outcome starts to stress you out and you think of the worst possible outcomes. So how can you focus on actions rather than outcomes? Well, the first point I want to make is that I think it's absolutely fine, and if you've watched one of my goal setting videos before, you'll know that I do set goals based on external metrics. For example, how much watch time I'm going to get on this channel. Often those external outcomes are just much easier to measure than our own actions. I use these goals as something to focus on, an area of my life that I really want to drive towards, but I detach myself from any kind of sense of disappointment if I don't achieve that goal, and instead then focus on the actions I'm taking to get there. And I can honestly say that since I shifted my mindset on this, it has made me so much happier. When I did my exams and law school, I really focused on the work I was doing, having faith in the fact that the results would come from my hard work. But walking into that exam, not thinking about what results I would get, just thinking about I would do the best I possibly could, what was in my power, and what would be, would be. It is extremely tough to detach yourself from metrics and from outcomes, but I think the more you can focus on your actions, the better you perform and the happier you will be. One final point on this, we shouldn't ignore outcomes completely. We take, obviously, the actions that we think are right and gonna have the best results. We should be happy and focus on taking those actions. But if we don't get the results we're after, if I make a video that no one wants to watch, I need to take that feedback on board. I need to then iterate my actions thinking, okay, what about this video did people not like? And in my next actions, I'm going to try to improve that. So when you inevitably, as we kind of all can't escape doing, look at the outcomes of your actions and aren't happy with them, there are two questions that I think we should always ask. What did you gain from this experience that will help you in the future? And what do you want to do differently next time? For me, it's focusing on my actions, being happy in taking those actions, but learning from outcomes. Unhappy habit number 2 is FOMO and comparison with others. We all know that this is terrible for us, but we still scroll through Instagram and look at the incredibly sexy bodies that fill our screens and think, oh, I really do wish I looked more like that. Or we look at the story of the people having an amazing time on a night out and wish we'd been invited. So I'm not going to tell you not to do it because we all do, but I am going to give you 3 techniques that help me deal with this. Technique number 1 is what I'm going to call imperfectionizing other people. So what this means is, like, when I look at Instagram and I think, oh, I really wish I were that person, I actively think of 3 reasons why my life is better than theirs. The point really here is that there are always things under the surface that people are struggling with, and that personally just makes me feel a bit better and kind of takes away that perfect image I've built up of that other person in my head. Technique number 2 is to remind yourself that other people think about you way less than you think they do. There's this awesome Eleanor Roosevelt quote, "You wouldn't worry so much about what other people think of you if you realized how seldom they do." So whenever I feel that kind of FOMO, which is like, my friends are gonna like me a little bit less if I don't go to that thing, I remind myself they're gonna go regardless, they're gonna have a great time, and if I'm not there because it's the right decision for me not to go because I'm really tired at the moment, they will understand. And frankly, it probably won't make that much of a difference to how good a time they have. Technique number 3 is to wear many hats. So if you find yourself comparing yourself to someone else in a work context, wearing your work hat, take that hat off, put on your relationship hat, and remind yourself how good a boyfriend you are. I find it really helpful when I'm comparing myself to Matt Diavella or Ali Abdaal or some other crazy business tycoon to think, actually, you know what? I'm a pretty great boyfriend to Beth. So before we move on to the last 2 unhappy habits, I want to quickly tell you about today's sponsor, Notion, one of the most powerful tools that keeps me productive, focused on taking action, and therefore happy. So Notion is the single most important tool that Beth and I use in our business, Menos. I started using Notion as a student to take notes in law school and still use it to write everything from captions to upcoming Instagram posts to copy for our website. Beth and I use it in our little Menos team to set projects for ourselves, like getting our backpacks on Amazon or upgrading our website, and then to break those projects down into manageable tasks. Everything syncs across all our devices seamlessly, available everywhere. One of my favorite things about Notion is the incredible bank of templates for students, business owners, or just making notes about books you've read or planning trips you want to go on. We use an awesome influencer marketing template, which we've customized to do exactly what we need it to do, to track the influencers we send bags to and to plan our social media posts. We track our costs to help make sure that bottom line is looking healthy, plan shot lists with our videographers to make quality content, and set tasks for one another, all in Notion's beautifully simple but powerful interface. So yeah, you can get started with Notion by signing up for free through the link in the description. All right, unhappy habit number 3 is focusing on our struggles, not our progress. So to illustrate the power of focusing on the progress we're making, in a 2007 study of 84 hotel room cleaners, half were told about the health benefits of their job, and the other half were told nothing. And completely crazily, the study showed that there was statistically significant evidence that the group who'd been told about the health benefits of their job actually saw a decrease in blood pressure and lost weight. Now, I'm not going to say that situation you find yourself in has no impact on your happiness. Obviously, we are affected by the things that happen to us. But I think how we frame those things is really critical to whether we generally feel happy or unhappy. For me, for example, I spend a huge amount of time working, but I always really try, yes, to be kind to myself, but also to frame it positively, to see myself as learning so much more than I would be if I weren't busy, and to see myself as kind of winning, like freer times when I won't have to work so hard. I think Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy sum this up nicely in their book, The Gap and the Gain. They say that when we're focused on our struggles, we're in the gap, we feel overwhelmed, but when we flip that to focus on the progress we've made, on the things we're overcoming, and even if we fail, on the things we learned, we switch from being in the gap, being in this downward cycle, to being in the gain and moving upwards. And unhappy habit number 4 is failing to accept that life isn't linear. So in his book, Solve for Happy, Mo Gaudat says that your happiness is equal to or greater than the difference between the events of your life and your hopes and wishes for your life. So effectively, the better the events of your life relative to your expectations, the happier you will be. But how are we supposed to, at the same time, set low expectations, kind of being realistic and accepting the world as it is, but also strive to be the best we can be, try to affect positive change, try to get better and be ambitious? So what's worked for me is getting comfortable with the fact that these two things, the desire for change and getting better and striving for progress, can coexist alongside being comfortable that things sometimes are bad and that is just the way they are. And that in life, things sort of shift. So there's an amount of space in my brain, and at one time it might be that I'm more in acceptance mode and that takes up more of my brain, but then that shrinks down, and in a time where I'm more positive, achieving more and feeling better about myself, actually the desire for change grows. The key point, I think, is what Mo Gaudat refers to as committed acceptance, a commitment throughout our lives to accepting that when we feel down, when we are struggling due to a huge range of complex external factors, our hormones, things beyond our control, we accept that is how we feel, and we are okay with that. Not being happy for a day or even like a week or a month is not failure. Our lives, our moods, and our progress are not linear. Only once we have accepted that we're unhappy or feeling down and that is potentially a bit beyond our control, should we then consider how we can take action to improve how we feel. So to summarize, focus on your actions, not your outcomes, but iterate your actions based on your outcomes. Second, fight FOMO and comparison with others using the 3 techniques I shared in this video. Third, focus on the progress that you're making rather than your struggles. And fourth, start accepting that life isn't linear. It's okay to feel down sometimes. Remember, you can start using Notion for free using the link in the description. I look forward to speaking again very, very soon.